Welcome to VGK Today, a daily podcast providing you an inside look at the Vegas Golden Knights 2025 Stanley Cup playoff run. I'm Justin Russo with the Golden Knights on Wednesday, April 30th, after last night's thrilling 3-2 overtime victory for the Golden Knights to give them a 3-2 series lead over the Wild. Brett Howden was the hero of the night with the overtime goal, and Brett becomes the first Golden Knight ever with multiple Stanley Cup playoff overtime goals. Entering Game 5, there had been 10 playoff overtime goals in VGK history by 10 different players, with, of course, the most recent coming from Ivan Barbashev just days ago in Game 4. Now you can make it 11, and this time, instead of silencing the home crowd, the overtime goal threw T-Mobile Arena into a frenzy, and the Knights are now just one win away from moving on to the second round. Lots to cover after Game 5, and thankfully we've got the voice of the Henderson Silver Knights, Brian McCormack, with us on today's show to take us through it all. So after the break, we'll send it over to Brian. Well, Golden Knights fans, while the VGK will be on the road for Game 6, that doesn't mean you can't still get together with your fellow medieval maniacs to take in the game in a fun environment. That's because Game 6's official watch party comes our way from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino, where doors will open at 3:30 Pacific Time with puck drop set for 4:30 Pacific Time on Thursday. And get this, anybody wearing VGK gear gets in for free, which sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Now, I will remind you that Circa Resort and Casino is a 21 and older venue, so take that into consideration when you make your plans for potentially going to that watch party or not. But again, not much better of a deal than wearing some VGK gear, getting in free at Stadium Swim, and enjoying Game 6 between the Knights and the Wild. The watch party will feature a DJ, visits from the VGK cast, raffle prizes including tickets to future Golden Knights games, and giveaways for all fans include VGK sunglasses, rally towels, and even more. So again, Game 6's official watch party this Thursday, May 1st, 3:30 p.m. doors open, 4:30 p.m. game time at Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino.
It was a roller coaster affair on Tuesday night at T-Mobile Arena, but now the Golden Knights head into Game 6 holding the hammer after Brett Howden's overtime winner gave the Golden Knights a 3-2 win over the Wild in Game 5. Hello friends, I'm Brian McCormack. Vegas Golden Knights got a dominant performance from Jack Eichel, a scare at the end of the third period, some good luck from the hockey gods, and some good eye from video coach Dave Rogowski, and then Brett Howden with the overtime dramatics as the Golden Knights now head to Game 6 in Minnesota with a chance to finish off this first-round series. We're going to catch up with Nic Hague, who we spoke to post-game. We'll hear Bruce Cassidy with a bit of an explanation of how the process works with video coach Dave Rogowski and how he was able to give the Golden Knights the information they needed to make the right call they needed at the end of regulation time to send this game to overtime. And we'll catch up with Darren Eliot for his thoughts on a dramatic Game 5 win for the VGK. First, let's catch up with Nic Hague.
Drags it back, put it into the corner. Pearson centered. They score! Brett Howden, a hero again! 3-2 in overtime. Brett Howden gives the Knights a 3-2 series lead.
So, Nick, back-to-back overtime wins in this series where the margin of error throughout has been pretty small. And for you guys, we talk about momentum through series. I would imagine back-to-back overtime wins has you guys feeling some pretty good mojo heading into Game 6.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge win. It's a big moment in the series, and I thought we did a good job in overtime, and same as in Game 4, and so yeah, we're just looking to keep building, and obviously nice to be on the right side of this one, and we'll look to go close it out in a couple of days.
It was a game with some momentum swings, but I felt like throughout you guys had your legs for sure, winning puck battles, winning 200-foot races, and it felt in overtime, especially with the long change, you guys were really able to not only hem them in, but kind of come after wave after wave. What allowed you guys to come out with that kind of energy in overtime?
I think it's just, high stakes, obviously, right? And, historically we've seemed to be able to, rise to the occasion, and, yeah, I think we just saw a little bit of that again tonight, and obviously we caught a break, a minute left in regulation there, and we wouldn't be talking about this if that goes the other way. So I think I'd say for the most part we do a good job of managing the ebbs and flows, and whether it's throughout a game or in between games. But we try to not get too high, not get too low. You're gonna have bad bounces go against you. You're gonna get some bad ones, or they'll have some bad ones go against them, and it's just kind of the way it goes sometimes.
We're with Nic Hague, and with that, hat tip Dave Rogowski, because he seems to get these challenges right an awful lot when he calls in to Bruce Cassidy. But looking at, I'm curious with that goal that was disallowed at the end, even when it goes your way, those kinds of breaks, you still don't want to play with your heart in your throat. Was it beneficial for you guys that intermission came so quickly? Did that give everyone a chance to settle down, reset a little bit?
Maybe, right? It's hard to say. It's obviously it was a break for us, and good eye by Rogo there to make the right call. It takes everyone, I guess, right? The guy behind the scenes, but I think we were able to close out the game, and we're confident in ourselves. It was nice to get the break, but kind of reset at intermission, and I thought we came out strong in overtime for sure.
Brett Howden does get the overtime winner. He has scored a playoff overtime winner in this building before. And he's coming off the greatest goal-scoring season of his career. What did it mean to see a guy who was under the weather a couple of days ago come back into the lineup and have that kind of an impact at the end?
Yeah, he's been so good for us all year. Scoring big goals. You trust him in every situation. He's he really just he does everything out there. So it's obviously nice to see him get rewarded again there tonight. And it was a great pass by Pierce from below the goal line, and obviously a great shot to finish it off.
Fans know that Jack Eichel can impact the game so many different ways, but I think we're waiting for a dominating performance from him in this series, and certainly there was one tonight. Just your thoughts on what Jack is capable of in all three zones, and how he was able to get things going in the first period tonight.
Yeah, Jack's, he's world class. He really does it all, and I know everyone wants him to score these pretty goals and and impact the game that way, which he certainly can. But he does so much for us. Even if he doesn't score, he's in my opinion one of the best defensive forwards in the game. He skates so well. He's able to take away time and space and close quick, and that's what makes him such a great player, because he's dangerous, if you will, at both ends of the ice. He'll shut it down and also really hurt you offensively.
With Nic Hague, this has not been a nasty series, but it has been a physical series and a grinding series. And of course, that's such a big part of your game in the D zone. How has that war of attrition been over the course of these 5 games?
Yeah, it's been physical for sure. They're big and strong, and they get in heavy on the forecheck, and so I think for the most part we've done a good job at trying to break pucks out as 5, and that's kind of been a mindset for us. And sometimes it's just simpler the better, because they come in hard and they're always finishing their checks, and they've been able to score a couple goals that way. But I think if we can just do our best to limit that, and get the puck moving the other way, the quicker the better, and we should bode pretty well from that.
Of course, there's always some tinkering to do game to game, but I think Bruce Cassidy's talked a bit during this series of no monumental changes and trusting the system that's gotten you guys to this point. Is that the mindset going into Game 6, that you guys have a good recipe for success?
Well, there's no secrets anymore, right? In the series, where 5 games are done now, and I think we know where we've had success and what we do to have success. So we'll look to keep building on that. There's always going to be little adjustments and whatnot throughout a game or throughout a series, but we know what's going on out there, right? It's we know what style they want to play, and we know what we need to do to be successful. So we'll just try to tap into that more and more.
And his post-game remarks, Bruce Cassidy did take a few moments to discuss Dave Rogowski, the video coach, and exactly how he gets the coaching staff the details they need in those crucial moments to make the big call that tonight took a goal from Ryan Hartman that would have won the game for Minnesota off the board.
Well, listen, he does a great job for us. I've said it all along. He's got a good eye for that. He listen, he's got a routine. He knows what he has to look for, so he does that constantly. But he does have a good eye for it. And he does it. He's good under pressure. I'll say that. When we ask, like Dom has the headset on, not me, but typically it's not. I'll use the other night. We're in Minnesota. It's 3-2 us, and they score. And Kaprizov's clearly into our goalie, right? So, like, everyone on the bench is like, you got to challenge. I go, wait a minute, there's a process. How did he get there? Like, did he get pushed in? There's a lot you got to sort through. And he didn't recommend challenging that the other night. He said probably 50-50, he thought. Now, we'll never know. But, we try to snoop around on that, and I get the feeling maybe it wasn't going to go our way from what I'm sort of reading between the lines, talking to different people. So, good for him. He didn't want to go on emotion and say they're into our goal. He thought, well, they could make an argument. He's pushed in, and they'd have an argument. So then off we go. So, he both sides. It's not automatic he wants to challenge all the time. But like I said, he's got a really good feel for it. Hasn't got very many wrong that he wanted to. I think we challenged one earlier, like late in the year, that was my call to protect the goaltender. Was it in Vancouver maybe or somewhere? I forget. And that ended up being like tonight. If you remember the goal in Vancouver, the guy was kind of in the blue and then out and in and kind of tangled, but it was no, it wasn't. It was the first trip into, because it was hilly. First trip into Vancouver, I think it was. So I think, yeah. So typically he's been bang on it, and I'll tell you what else they do. He reviews like every challenge that comes up or something potential. He will look at, so you have a book on the probability. You know what I mean? If you see enough of one kind of goalie interference, you might say, listen, typically this doesn't come back, just so you know. And so he has a pretty good feel for that. The offsides to me are a little more black and white, Danny. It's the frame, the puck, you see it in the right frame. You know what I mean? Those are a little bit easier to sort of say, well, it's a little more defined.
Nice to hear from Nic Hague after Game 5, after a fun win at the Fortress. And as Brian walked us through there, the Knights could be in a much different spot right now if it weren't for the work of video coach Dave Rogowski, spotting that offside entry on the late Wild goal and taking it off the board to send us to overtime. What a roller coaster of emotions that was late in the game. The goal is scored. The initial review for a puck potentially being kicked in is deemed in Minnesota's favor, so the goal stands. And then you get the challenge, and then it's taken off. Up and down we went in the final couple of minutes of that third period, as we then finally got to overtime and finally got to Brett Howden's winner. We'll step aside once more, and when we return, Brian is back with Darren Eliot to review Game 5. Golden Knights fans, if you need your football fix this spring, the Vegas Nighthawks are back at Lee's Family Forum coming up this Saturday, May 3rd, and next Saturday on May 10th. Catch the fast-paced, family-friendly action of indoor football with tickets available at nighthawksfootball.com. Also want to remind you that the official VGK mobile app is the easiest way to keep up with the team. Plus, fans with the app will have the chance to win tickets to select playoff games. Download it today for Apple or Android.
And now we catch up with Darren Eliot. And Darren, for the Golden Knights, this is a game I thought they deserved to win. They carried such large portions of play. But winning back-to-back overtime games has to give you all kinds of mojo. I thought this was a Game 5 that both Minnesota and Vegas would come into feeling good about themselves. Now, if there's momentum to be had after 2 overtime wins, Vegas has it.
I think so, and it might not. They're an experienced team anyway, so I would expect them to be pretty consistent in their approach. Minnesota's played 5 good hockey games.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit more, their dauber might be down a little bit. You would expect them on home ice, they're going to come out, but if you can survive it, I think the balance could tip over to the Golden Knights' advantage. I didn't like the third. I thought they went east-west a bit, got a little stubborn in terms of not playing as direct as they had through the first 40 minutes.
And especially with one of the storylines of this series has been shot volume that Vegas has had. Marc-Andre Fleury comes in, and I don't think they got a shot on him for about 12 minutes in that third period.
I know, and it was strange, and it wasn't as if they didn't have zone time.
Right.
They were getting the puck in, and yet they were trying to force things through the middle higher in the zone than probably should have. So you didn't get the shots through. But, man, this was a stress fest for the fans. What a game. lots of emotions, especially at the end of the game.
And there's a lot of storylines to talk about. I'm going to bury the lead a little bit. We're going to go a little further back. Because, as you mentioned, it was so hard, both teams, to find anything between the hash marks in this game until Brett Howden. But let's go back to the first period, because fans were excited to see a Jack Eichel dominant game. He's always impacting the game, but they were looking for a game where he took over. The first period was all Jack Eichel.
It was, and he ended up with 5 shots on goal, still didn't score, but the first period, skating with the puck, strong with the puck. I mean, double and triple team and still coming up with the puck to make great plays. It's nice to see him skating with such authority again. So whatever was bothering him, it's past. Because even Game 4, you could see Jack Eichel being more like himself, and tonight he was something to be seen. And he and Carlson playing on the same line defensively against the Eriksson-Ek line with Boldy and Kaprizov. Now, those guys scored, but one was on a power play, one was on a one-on-one play. Nothing to do with the defensive posture of those two guys.
And that's, I think, Game 4 included, that's something the last 2 games, they've handled the Kaprizov-Boldy duo so much better as this series has gone along. Which is to say, they are a talented twosome that are of that variety where contain him, you may not stop him completely, but that's what they've done for a couple of games now.
They've got 10 of the 17 goals, those 2 players, in 5 games. It's pretty good pace. But again, they contained them where they weren't running rampant and getting multiple shots. The shot by Kaprizov on the power play, beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great release. And Boldy's plays, this kid is emerging. They're going to be calling him a superstar before long because they're already calling him a star.
We'll touch on both. Let's go back to Eichel real quick, because again, you mentioned skating with the puck with authority, but the strength. So the Carlson goal, shorthanded, but Eichel makes a defensive play between the hash marks, carries it the length,
shorthanded,
draws 3 guys to him before he makes that pass. So he's shielding people off. And then the second goal for Stone is a puck he picks off in the neutral zone, chips around, I think it was Faber to himself, but then carries it in situations where other players are going to chip it, rim it, look for a pressure release valve. He doesn't do that. He'll show you his back, he'll post up if you will, he'll shrug you off, and he'll make a play.
And that's the other thing, not just his skating, but the physical play, handling it much better in the last 2 games than we've seen for maybe the last 10 games, where he would get pushed off the puck a little bit more than we were used to seeing. So, like I said, whatever it was, not a factor now.
2 assists, and for the Golden Knights, I think every series usually has something that jumps off the page as trademark of that series. This is a nasty series. This is a track meet series. For me, this series, and we've seen it with Eichel, we've seen it with Boldy, and we saw it with, although it was disallowed, we saw it with Ryan Hartman, and he's had a pretty good series for Minnesota. This, to me, has been men who are strong on their skates, strong on their feet, driving the net. This has not been a series where the Boldys and the Eichels have been pushed off.
Right.
And it's been players who are strong on their skates, asserting themselves to the middle, and there's not a lot of middle to be had.
And you're just talking about the star players, but Foligno's had a good series, another big, strong man. And look at the game-winning goal. It was all on a forecheck. It was Keegan Colasar making the decision to chip it in, get after it, force a turnover. Pearson on the wall. Back before that, Nic Hague pinches down the wall, wins a battle. So it has been like that. But both teams so stout defensively. You have to admire the conviction on both sides to keep the puck out of the dangerous area.
And for Brett Howden, who gets the overtime goal, let's jump to the highlight everyone's going to be watching all day tomorrow. It's, again, one of the few passes that actually made it between the hash marks that wasn't a power play. Golden Knights have gotten a lot of good bumper looks on their power play, but it was Brett Howden in overtime off, again, you said, it was a puck kept in deep. First of all, I think for the Golden Knights, they had the better legs throughout this game. Whether it was puck possession, whether it was backtracking through the neutral zone on back checks, they were winning the 200-foot battles, let alone the puck races. And in overtime, you could see Minnesota, especially with the long change, they were just trying to hang on, and the Golden Knights ran down their throat.
Well, and they don't play 6 defensemen, 3 defense pairs evenly as much as the Golden Knights do. And it's been more of a 3-line rotation than usual for Coach Cassidy, just because game situation and it's go time. I mean, and you're matching, and they play like Boldy played 33 minutes last game. I mean, as a forward.
Yeah.
So so that if you're going to match straight up on that, means your guys who led time on ice tonight, Jack Eichel, because he was out there for power plays in every situation, penalty kill, and matching that Eriksson Ek line. It's his, we'll call it his line because he's a centerman.
Sure.
But it's really Boldy and Kaprizov. But terrific hockey, hard-fought hockey, and as you mentioned, it's hard hockey, not a lot of dirty hockey, but it's everybody is fully invested in playing all out.
And Brett Howden, who's scored a playoff overtime goal in this building before, but he's coming off the greatest goal-scoring season of his career. This is a guy who was under the weather just a couple of days ago. So for him to come in and have the finishing touch on this one, the story of his season just keeps writing itself better and better as the chapter goes along.
Well, as coming out of the locker room, they call him Bretsky.
Yep.
For a reason. He's scoring at a great clip.
Now the overtime happens because let's give flowers to Dave Rogowski, who's tell you what, I don't know his batting average compared to maybe every other video coach in the league. I know it's high because I don't know how many video coaches around the league everyone knows by name. I think by this point everyone knows Dave Rogowski because he gets so many of these right. But what a momentum swing that is with, I think it was a minute 15 left.
15.
The Hartman goal's taken off the board. I asked Nic Hague about this. He shrugged about it, so I could be way off. I actually thought there was probably a benefit. It's a huge momentum swing. It's in your favor, but you never want to be playing in this kind of a game with such a tight margin for error with your heart in your throat for good or for bad. I think the fact that the intermission came so quickly after that and let everyone settle down resetting it was probably a good thing.
I'll go along with that as well. But again, kudos to Rogo. He has a process that he goes through, and it's, first you're looking at was it kicked in? That's the league doing that. Mm-hmm. Was there goalie interference? And you work back to make sure that every zone entry is clean. That's his process. And so he was pretty quick to say, I think we should challenge this. And offsides are easier to challenge.
Sure.
The goalie interference is a little bit of a more subjectivity to it.
Goalie interference, if you go to the review center in Toronto, and it's like pull the jury, or what'd you have?
And so going back to Game 4, Rogo said it's only 50-50, and they didn't challenge. He recommended not to challenge. So not only do you get them right that way, his process and he keeps a log of all the challenges across the league. So you get a sense for goalie interference in this situation more likely to be called in this situation. Whatever his secret sauce is, it's working, and boy, it may have saved this series.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's been some good series out west. This is the one that has felt to me the most like a slugfest at this point. This is a Minnesota team that maybe some people underestimated coming into this series across your national panel of pundits. This is a Minnesota team that can hold their own for sure. And with the slim margin of error for the Golden Knights, it's been a couple of overtime goals is the difference for sure. But also it's been a very patient Golden Knights team.
Veteran, again, very self-aware. They know what they have to do. The moments aren't too big for them. So all that is in their favor. The one thing I didn't know about Minnesota, I didn't underestimate them, but I didn't know that they played or could play that hard-nosed. Mm-hmm. They've got some big guys and stuff like that, but they've got a lot of smaller guys. But it doesn't matter. They don't shy away from contact whatsoever.
And if you look as Game 6 approaches, as we mentioned, it's a Golden Knights team that has momentum, has a lot to feel good about. It is not a Minnesota team that has a loss in this series really to feel bad about either. This is a team that is ready to dust itself off, get on home ice, and try to answer back.
And as we said at the outset, I would expect Minnesota to be full of, vim and vigor to start that game. If you get through that, then maybe it's like, oh, here we go again, a little bit daubered down, maybe a little bit on Minnesota side, if you can impose your game, especially if you keep it going to the offensive zone, put it behind the D, just meat and potatoes kind of hockey. If you're doing that and you score first, you have a good chance to close it out, but we know for sure it's not going to be easy.
Darren Eliot, thanks for hanging out a little bit longer post-game. We appreciate it.
It's almost Game 6 time.
It was a roller coaster night in Game 5. At the end of the night at T-Mobile Arena, everyone had their hands up, Justin.
Indeed, Brian. Nothing quite like playoff overtime hockey. And it just goes up another level when you get that overtime goal at home. So fun to be part of that environment as the roof of the building just pops right off after that moment. And hopefully the Knights can build on that Game 5 success and that overtime winner by Brett Howden to then end the series in 6 games coming up on Thursday. That'll just about wrap things up for today's show. Thank you as always for tuning into VGK today, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform, as we'll be back every day throughout the Knights' 2025 Stanley Cup playoff run with new episodes. Tune in tomorrow as Ashley Weiss is back to set us up for Game 6 from St. Paul. Justin Russo signing off for VGK Today.